So I call to order the continued public hearing of the 40B application of Jeffrey Engler of SLV School Street LLC to be known as a sanctuary at Manchester by the Sea for a comprehensive permit under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 to 23, to construct a 136-unit apartment complex for which the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency issued a project eligibility decision on September 16th, 2021 at School Street, Assessors Map number 43, lot number 18, filed with the town clerk on September 27th. The first item on the agenda is to read, enter some correspondence received into the record. What we are going to be doing is on the town 40B webpage, we'll be creating a section titled Public Record Communications. And when we receive letters from the public, we will be posting them to that website so people have access to it. I have three letters to enter in. The first one is from Karen M. Hurley Gertsch, dated November 7th, 2021. She is a direct woodlot abutter. And she writes, as an owner of a share of my grandmother's woodlot, Helen E. Hurley Trust, 1¼ acres, belonging to our family for over 100 years, that abuts the proposed Shingle Hill development area, I am very concerned. The wastewater treatment plant proposed for the SLV project will be too close to the boundary of our land. The leaching field will run downhill directly onto our land. Lots of blasting will be needed at the SLV site. For certain, the SLV project will destroy the natural environment that exists here. For these reasons, I strongly oppose the SLV project. As you know, the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust has spent more than 50 years working to preserve open space, to protect our water quality, as well as the environment for plants and animals living in the unspoiled areas off Upper School Street. Thanks to MECT's efforts and vision, many people, not just those living in Manchester and Essex, have greatly benefited from the beauty and peace this natural area provides. I have learned that 19 variances from the Conservation Commission alone are required to move ahead with this monstrosity. How can the Zoning Board of Appeals approve the blowing up of Shingle Hill in these critically important wetland and woodland areas, just so one developer can construct his pipe dream of an inappropriate located 40B development? The proposed project on Upper School Street on Shingle Hill will make a huge visual impact on every passerby forever. There will never be trees high enough or fences tall enough to hide this housing project. The land is steep and rocky. It will need to be blown up. The abutting landscape will be adversely impacted in many ways. The pristine Hurley woodlot and other parcels abutting the proposed development land, as well as protected open space, will be spoiled forever. I've been keeping abreast of the affordable housing projects the town of Manchester is planning to provide by expanding its existing sites and developing new areas that will be far more suitable within the existing community, where residents will be nearer to shops, trains, parks, and beach, and necessary services. In other words, where residents will be part of the existing community rather than on the other side of Route 128. I am convinced the people of Manchester will find more appropriate locations in town. For Jeff Engler, the head of SLV, this housing project is just another money-making endeavor, and then he'll move on to the next development. For the townspeople and all of those who travel along this road, the natural beauty will be destroyed forever. The land cannot speak for itself. It needs caring people to do that. The Zoning Board of Appeals should not feel forced to accept this large, inappropriate housing development, because Manchester by the Sea needs to provide more affordable housing units. As an abutter, I am asking the Zoning Board of Appeals to please give this project your utmost consideration while the people of Manchester continue to work towards new affordable housing units. The SLV 40B project proposed for Shingle Hill is not the answer. And Karen Gersh lives at 11 Haskell Court in Essex, Mass. The next letter is from Anthony Simboli, the owner of the Manchester Athletic Club, which is an abutter across the street. After considering the impact of the 40B as one of the town's largest abutters to the project, I do have several concerns. First and foremost is traffic. While this project on its own may not warrant all the measures below, its impact should be considered in the context of the Manchester Athletic Club, its land and its future. The MAC is the last major piece of developable commercial land in Manchester. It has the potential to serve many needs of the town. Its future prospects need to be protected. For instance, if a separate lane or widening of Southern Ave is needed to accommodate traffic, land for that needs to be allocated from the 40B project, not others. Likewise, if restricted turning so as not to cross the lane of traffic, or if traffic lights are needed, these costs or operational burdens should not be and cannot be borne solely by the MAC. It would severely impact its business and any future development. Secondly, the 40B originally proposed handling its own wastewater treatment on site. I believe if any other solution is proposed or contemplated, then it should consider and accommodate all of the abutters, their present and their potential future needs. What makes the 40B project important to the town is that there are currently, if you include the 40B project, only 2 undeveloped parcels in the LCD in Manchester. While this project does have the potential to help a limited number of residents that need financial relief, approximately 30 to 35, it could affect and limit the last piece of developable commercial land. The full development of my parcel has the potential to help the entire town through provided services or by significantly raising the tax base without putting significant burdens on the town. The last concern is about ancillary uses that may be allowed as part of the 40B project. I feel that since they have had a specific use, namely residential, and they are benefiting from state mandate, that no other uses, public or private, should be allowed on that site. Thank you for your consideration. And the last one is from Daniel C. Hill of Hill Law, has submitted a letter on behalf of the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust. And he states, and I probably will not read the entire thing because it's lengthy and there's 2 reports attached to it. The firm represents the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust, a nonprofit land conservancy with nearly 600 members and a mission to conserve ecologically important land and wildlife in Manchester and Essex, Massachusetts. MECT is also a neighbor of the vacant parcel of land identified as Manchester Assessor's Map 43, Lot 18, which is the subject of the above referenced comprehensive permit application. I am writing to provide the board with our initial comments, concerns, and recommendations for the board's public hearing. Introduction. By way of background, I have been practicing land use and zoning law for over 20 years and have represented public and private clients in over 100 Chapter 40B projects over the time, including defending decisions at the Housing Appeals Committee and in Massachusetts courts. I currently serve as a special municipal counsel to several municipalities on Chapter 40B matters. Probably the most significant function of Chapter 40B is to empower the local zoning board to waive any local bylaw, regulation, policy, or procedure that would render the construction of the project uneconomic. General Law, Chapter 40B, Section 20. Thus, the most important task of the board's public hearing is to evaluate the developer's waiver requests and to determine whether the public health, safety, environmental, or planning concerns presented by these waivers outweigh the regional need for housing, in which case they should be denied. There is a prevailing myth that local bylaws and regulations do not apply to Chapter 40B projects. This is wrong. Local rules apply to Chapter 40B projects unless the developer can prove that waivers are needed to make the project economically viable, and that the need for affordable housing outweighs the local concerns protected by the local bylaws and regulations for which waivers are sought. This balancing test was illustrated in the case of Reynolds versus Stowe Zoning Board of Appeals, where the court ruled that it was unreasonable for the zoning board to grant waivers from a local water resource protection bylaw in light of demonstrated impacts on the 37-unit project septic system on nearby private drinking water wells. To put this standard in plain English, the board need only grant waivers to the extent they are necessary to make the project economically viable, and then only if the waivers do not present insurmountable public health, safety, environmental, or planning impacts that outweigh the need for housing. General comments. As the applicant is aware, the projected site is environmentally sensitive, surrounded on 3 sides by bordering vegetated wetlands, vernal pools, and tributaries to a perennial stream, Sawmill Brook. Sawmill Brook is a designated cold water fishery and one of the only streams left in the region to support native brook trout. The site is within the Zone 3 wellhead protection for the town's Lincoln Street public water supply well and is within the town's water resource protection overlay district. Stormwater runoff from the project's internal roadway and parking areas and approximately 25,000 gallons per day of wastewater will be recharged into the ground and ultimately discharged into Sawmill Brook, which is hydrologically connected to the Lincoln Street well aquifer. Manchester has never seen a project this large and impactful to its natural environment and public water supply. At 136 units, the project would represent a 6% increase in the town's housing inventory. A project of this magnitude must be thoroughly vetted. All environmental impacts must be identified, quantified, and addressed. Compliance with state environmental laws must be confirmed, and local environmental laws must be preserved if there is any material threat degradation. Unfortunately, the applicant has gotten off on the wrong foot. In order for the board to evaluate the viability and suitability of the project's on-site recharge systems, it must have soil and groundwater evaluation data in the location of those proposed systems, typically collected in test pits. Test pit locations were shown on prior iterations of the applicant's site plans filed with the subsidizing agency Mass Housing, but are inexplicably removed from the plans filed with the board earlier this month. Nor have any test pit data logs been provided to the board, a material omission from a development permit application where subsurface recharge of stormwater and or wastewater is proposed. The applicant appears to have adopted an adversarial posture even before the board's hearing has opened. In email exchanges with Mass Housing, its manager, Jeff Engler, characterized local concerns with environmental damage as fabrication and erroneous. He also called Manchester a very difficult town. In the same email chain, he promised to meet all statutory and programmatic regulations and obligations during the public hearing process. But he filed a comprehensive permit application lacking in critical detail, containing no test pit data and no details on descriptions of its wastewater treatment facility. It is not too late for Mr. Engler to hit the reset button and adjust his approach to the permitting of the project. To do so, Mr. Engler and his team of paid consultants should be prepared to be candid, forthcoming, and transparent with every design detail. MECT promises to do the same with its technical review and comments. We are pleased to provide the board with initial comment letters from Scott Horsley, a hydrologist with decades of experience working with federal and state environmental agency impacts from recharge systems, and John Cheshire, a civil engineer with the same level of experience designing and peer reviewing complex multifamily residential projects, including wastewater treatment facilities. Mr. Horsley and Cheshire identify specific design details that are incomplete or completely missing from the application materials filed today. They also flag a number of apparent nonconformities with state regulations and guidelines governing wastewater treatment and stormwater management facilities. Mr. Horsley's comments raise a number of concerns with potential water quality impacts and the need to properly characterize those through a robust hydrogeological analysis. We look forward to discussing these issues with the board during the public hearing and urge the board to retain qualified independent peer reviewers on civil design, hydrology, wetland science, and transportation engineering. And attached to this letter are the reports from Mr. Horsley and Mr. Cheshire, and those will go up on the website with the letter. If anybody is interested in looking at them. The next item, which is the primary item on our agenda tonight, is to discuss and select a traffic circulation and parking peer reviewer. We sent requests for proposals out. We have received 3 responses by the deadline that we gave. So we're going to be looking at those tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to rank them based on priority, and then we'll be able to go out to them and see if they'll be able to deliver the peer review by January 6th to meet our schedule. So the 3 firms that responded are Stantec, BSC Group, and Environmental Partners. And I believe the board members received a copy of the RFP plus those proposals. And does any member of the board have any initial thoughts on this? Please raise your hand so I can recognize you. Brian?
No, I'm just looking at the 3. My only thought is, of the 3 that we have an opportunity to have a third set of eyes look at the traffic study. The applicants, I believe Stantec, we were told, did peer review for the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
And frankly, my feelings are that I'd like to see someone other than Stantec. I'd like to see a third independent look at this, which boils it down to Environmental Partners and BSC. That's just my thought. I think this is an opportunity to really get a good global look at it. And so, and I mean, we can talk about, I don't think dollars are an issue at this point, but I think that that's the 2 I've boiled it down to. Just my feelings as far as Stantec goes. And it's nothing against Stantec, the fact that let's take another look at it from a different perspective.
Catherine, what's your take on that?
I agree completely. I was going to say the same thing. So I agree with what Brian said.
And do you have a preference over BSC or Environmental Partners? Or
well,
hard?
I mean, I'd like to hear a little bit what everyone else has to say, but my initial impression, I was really impressed with the breadth of experience in the Environmental Partners. And with the number of communities that they'd worked in that seemed very similar to ours. So I would say that, you know, if you're asking to take sort of my initial response would be that I probably have a preference for Environmental Partners, but I'm open to hearing what others have to say and revising my opinion.
Okay. James Mitchell.
I agree with what both Catherine and Brian have said. I do think it would be worthwhile to have a new opinion or a new set of eyes, which basically precludes our choosing Stantec at this time. I also happen to agree with what Catherine has said about the experience of Environmental Partners. I don't really have anything to add to that. I think we're in good hands regardless of who we choose.
Okay. Jim Dietrich. You're muted.
I'm sorry, my microphone was turned off.
Okay.
I'd like to pass to Sean for a moment. I'm still trying to evaluate these reports, and I would ask, have we received any comment from the town planner regarding them?
No. They were passed along to us. Okay, let me go to Sean.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of going along with Brian and Catherine on this one. From what I can, reading and everything, I'm just kind of going along with environmental partners needing that second set of eyes. Also,
John Benares, are you on? He might have an opinion, but apparently not if he's not here. Sue Brown, are you on?
I'm on, Sarah.
Do you have an opinion?
I don't. I think they all provide generally the basic same level of service. There's there is quite a span in the amount, and I don't know if that is being considered. I respect that some board members would like a third set of eyes. I think that's a reasonable request, but I think all show that they kind of provide the same level of review and have, all have worked in this capacity before. So I really don't have a preference on whom to select.
Ezra Glenn, are you on the phone?
Sarah, he is not. He had a conflict. He didn't think that he was needed, but he said
That's
I could
fine.
text him if needed. And he would try to jump on. He has another commitment.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Well, Brian, did you have any additional thoughts?
No, I mean, other than the fact that, as Sue pointed out, there appears to be a disparity as far as the costs go. But if that's not our concern, if that, and I'm trying to do a side-by-side analysis. It looks like they're both providing the same level of review and services. If it was my money, but it's not. Based on what I see, I would think that, and both obviously have experience in peer review. I don't see the value of doubling up with environmental partners if BSC can do it the same quality work for half the dollars. And what I look at is Stantec. So, and sometimes you take the high and the low and you throw them out. I'm looking at both Stantec and BSC were in the same ballpark dollar-wise. And then we've got the third coming in at twice the price. And I don't see if are they doing twice the work. I don't know. But my opinion is that, and again, this becomes SLB's, I think, it's their money. I guess
But
we can spend.
it's our decision.
Yeah, but we get to spend it.
Madam Chairwoman, if
Yes,
I may, for the record.
Mr. Engler?
Strategic Jeff Engler from SLB School Street. I don't, as the applicant, I don't have the right to select the peer reviewer, but I certainly have the right to review the scope and the fee. And your consultant, Ezra and Sue, would vouch for that, and I haven't seen anything. And if the board is, listen, I'm not going to argue if people want a third opinion, but if the board is intent on getting, review done by the 6th, it makes all the sense in the world to hire Stantec. They're familiar with the site. They've done it. I would have concerned that the other two are going to be ready by the 6th, with the holidays and the like coming up. But with that said, if the scopes are the same, we're going to have a hard, and I know both firms. I would have no issue working with BSC. I'd have no issue working with environmental partners, but it would be hard pressed for me to pay double when the scopes are the same. I mean, that just, as people on the board, I appreciate Brian's comments. It just, it doesn't make sense, particularly when we're going to be doing lots of peer review, presumably. This is just one peer review. So I'm not going to fight for Stantec. All three are good firms by anybody's judgment or measure. I think Stantec makes the most sense, but
I understand board members wanting kind of a fresh look, but you know, BSC is a very good firm, and I haven't seen the proposals, but if their scope is the same as environmental partners, yet environmental partners is charging double, that seems, you know, seems kind of inconsistent with me, particularly as Brian said, when two of the three are within the same stratum and the third is an outlier. That's just my opinion.
Sarah, I will note that the town council is on, if you had any questions for town council. Mr. Pucci is on if you have any questions.
Mr. Pucci, do you have any comments?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. George Pucci from Town Council's office. I just have a limited comment on it. As you had pointed out, Madam Chair, it's entirely the board's decision on the peer review selection. The comprehensive permit regulations do encourage the board to try to work cooperatively with the applicant in terms of selecting someone. So if there is an objection to a scope or the cost, you are encouraged to try to work that out with the applicant. I haven't, compared these proposals side by side. They are both, have great reputations, the firms, but these issues sometimes break down a little bit differently. Sometimes, an initial scope and an estimate ends up not being enough and has to be replenished. And I'm not saying that anyone, sort of lowballed the estimate. I'm not saying that at all, but I have seen it come up that, an initial estimate ends up increasing during the review in question. So, again, it's up to you and the board to review those proposals, see which one is most realistic, see which one you're most interested in engaging. If you also find that certain of the experience set forth in one of the proposals is, you think that that's impressive and that's why you want to select that peer reviewer, that would be something relevant as well. So that would pretty much be my comment. I wouldn't comment substantively on, intrude on the board members' ability to review these proposals and decide which one they think is most appropriate.
Thank you. And just to make it clear, the difference in the costs, the proposals, the estimated, they're all on time, hourly rates. BSC estimated 9,600 and environmental partners estimated 16,800. Not a significant difference in my book.
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you, Sarah.
That is a significant difference. I paid $12,000 to have the entire study done. So environmental partners is charging more to review a study than to actually conduct all the work and write the report. That seems grossly inconsistent to me, grossly inconsistent.
I would recommend kind of that type of going back and forth. I mean, my initial impression of that, as you said, Madam Chair, that doesn't seem overly, it's not like it's 50,000 compared to 9,000. It's fairly close. And again, it's really your discretion to make that selection.
This is Catherine Howe. If I may just, I was noticing, I would just like to rebut a little that the scope of services here is exactly the same, because it does seem to me that environmental partners is offering a more robust review, more sort of included interactions, more in-person meetings, more written memoranda. So from my initial review, I would, I haven't done an exact side-by-side here, but just from glancing through both of them, I do think environmental partners is offering a more robust work, which may support their higher price.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Jim Dietrich, do you have any other thoughts?
No, Let me make sure my microphone is turned on.
It is.
Okay, it is. I don't think the difference in cost is significant. I do feel that a firm that has already gone through this once before has some experience with it, and that should be taken into consideration. Bringing in a new firm that hasn't looked at it before runs the risk of there having a learning curve. So I really don't see much difference between the two companies, Environmental Partners and Stantec. So I could support either one.
I mean, I see this as a very important part of the overall comprehensive permit. And that's why I definitely lean towards having a different firm look at it from the one that looked at it for the town. So that's where I stand from. Mr. Hill, Dan Hill, do you have something to say?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Dan Hill, I represent the MACT, and if it would be okay for me to make just a brief comment on this, because I know this is going to be coming up in every peer review selection that you make, and I wanted to echo what Attorney Pucci said, that what's really most important in reviewing these proposals is not the lump sum quote, it's the hourly rates of the engineers, because you can ask them to do as little or as much as you want them to do. So if Environmental Partners is saying they're going to come to 5 meetings and spend 100 hours, you could always go back to them and say, look, we don't want that much work. We want 2 meetings or 1 meeting. And in that case, it's really apples to apples. It sounds to me like BSC and Environmental Partners are quoting roughly the same hourly rates. And I would really encourage the board to just make a decision based upon that factor, and then manage the people that you're hiring, and only ask them to produce reports and to answer questions that you specifically direct them to do. In my experience, Environmental Partners is a very good firm. I know that Mr. Engler has dealt with them in Brookline. They're very, very well established, and I would recommend that they be selected for this project.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have no problem with Environmental Partners, but I've done this as long or as much as Dan, and I've never seen a peer review consultant not bill to what they estimated, ever. All right, so if they estimate 11 grand, they're not going to bill 6 or say, oh, we only had to go to 1 hearing. No way. So for Mr. Hill to say the rates are, the hourly rates may be the same, but there's no way if they know they have a contract signed for $11,000, do you really think, or 16, that they're only going to charge 10? No way. So listen, I don't care. I'm not going to argue about this. If the board wants to, hire somebody for twice the cost for more or less the same level of service, that's your discretion. But, in the spirit of compromise, if that's the direction you're going to go, then, I'll take that under advisement.
Thank you, Mr. Engler.
I had a comment. It's James Mitchell.
Yes.
I'm wondering at this moment, Mr. Engler raised, I think, a very important point. I'm not sure, can we make a decision on one of these 3 firms, not knowing if any of them can perform by January 6th?
Well, what my suggestion was going to be is that we rank them. We go out to the one we rank number 1 and say, can you get it done by January 6th? If they say no, we go on to number 2. If they say no, we go on to number 3.
That makes sense. Thank you.
That was where I was coming from, is not only, making a selection, but confirming that in fact they can get it completed by January 6th.
I would support that, Sarah.
Okay.
Would someone be kind enough to email me the proposals? I do have that right as the applicant and the people writing the checks here to be able to see the proposals.
Yes, we can send them to you.
Sarah, shall we move to a ranking?
Yes. Where are we coming down on this? It sounds to me like environmental partners is number 1, BSC is number 2, and Stan Tech is number 3.
I would agree with that. James Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. This is Brian.
I would agree.
Catherine Howe also.
And Jim?
Yes, I said I
And
would
Sarah.
agree with it. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So
And
I make a motion that we rank the traffic peer reviewers in the following manner. First choice would be environmental partners. Second choice would be BSC. Third choice would be Stan Tech, predicated on the fact that the peer reviewer must be able to commit to completing the peer review by January 6, 2022.
Second.
Sean seconds. I'll take a roll call vote. James,
Approved. Yes.
Sean,
Approved.
Brian,
yes, approved.
Catherine,
Approve.
Jim,
Approve.
and Sarah approves. And we will send copies of the 3 proposals received to Mr. Engler tomorrow morning. Okay. The status of the other peer reviews. We've sent out the RFPs on the environmental, and we requested a response date of January 3rd, 2022. With the hope that we can then select an environmental peer reviewer at our meeting on January 12th. That's the purpose behind now. So has the third one gone out for engineering and geotech?
It has not. I was collecting comments today from our Department of Public Works, Ezra and Town Council and Greg, just to make sure that it seemed complete. But the comments that I've got back, I think I'm ready to send it out tomorrow morning.
So can we ask for a return date of January 6th on that one also?
Oh, well, I thought you had said January 17th. Do you want January 6th?
Oh, had I said January 17th?
Yeah,
Okay, we can go with January 17th.
I think either gives it enough time, so I think it's up to you.
Okay, so return of 17th, that's fine.
Okay.
There's only so much we can do in each meeting.
Right. Yeah, I think we have a list of 7 or 8, so it will take some review for those.
Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to discuss is the status of the request for certification of safe harbor from DHCD at the state. We received a letter today from DHCD denying our request for certification. So the board will need to make a decision based on the timing of when the state responded. If we don't appeal, I believe our 180 days will be up on May 19th, 2022, which means we'll have to completely review the comprehensive permit by then, which is one of the reasons why I'm trying to push this stuff a little earlier so that we can get things done. But the board will need to make a determination of whether or not we wish to appeal that decision from the state. It's been recommended that we do that in executive session. So the question is do we want to do an executive session at the end of our regular ZBA meeting on December 15th? I know we'll only have 5 people there that night, or do we want to do an executive session on Tuesday, the 14th? That would be in person at Town Hall, I think would be the easiest.
Tuesday, the 14th. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Oh, that
Tuesday, the
looks-
14th or Wednesday, the 15th, at the end of our regular meeting.
The 14th works better for me, obviously.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm kind of
Wait, I'm
going
so
with the 14th also.
And it's
Are we talking about December 14th
yes,
next Tuesday.
in the evening? Yeah, I can't be at that.
okay.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to weigh in on this. You're talking to the board members, but if you wanted counsel there, that day is a problem for me.
The 14th?
14th and the 15th are problems, either day or night.
Okay,
I apologize. I can't move some of these things that I have on.
okay, then I'll offline this and find an appropriate meeting.
I apologize.
Data hold it.
I normally would move things around. These things that I have on those days, I cannot move.
Okay. Yeah, the challenge we have is with only 20 days, we have to make a decision relatively
Correct.
quickly, but I'll kind of pull the ball aboard and see.
Madam
we can
Chair, if I may, on the safe harbor,
Yes, Mr. Engel.
I don't know if the zoning board members have read the letter. If they haven't, they probably will shortly. I mean, the decision and the issues at hand could not be more clear. I mean, I said that the town has no chance to win this. People didn't believe me. You guys, did what you have the right to do, and you pushed it, and DHCD opined. I mean, it's certainly your discretion, but it's not a winning hand. And to appeal, everything gets stayed. Forget about the traffic being ready by January 6th. Everything goes on hold. And then, presumably when DHCD finds in our favor again, then we pick it up, and it's not like you have more time on the back end. It's just delaying what's going to occur now. So I would humbly and respectfully ask you to defer to your counsel and look at the position you're holding and the set of circumstances when you consider whether or not an appeal is in the best interest of the zoning board and the town at whole relative to, spending money on your counsel who, whatever, but it's a more global issue than that. And we'll, respond accordingly, but you have every right to do it. I would just ask you to think critically and look at the facts of the case.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Steve Gang, do you wish to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a simple question, although I can't resist observing that your adversary will always advise you not to appeal. I'm not sure how valuable that advice actually is, with all due respect, Mr. Engler. But the question I have is it possible to share the reasons that DHCD gave you, if they gave any in the letter?
Mr. Pucci, is it appropriate for me to put it up on the website?
It's a public record. And
Okay.
I appreciate you asking me a question, because I try to be respectful on Zoom and not speak over you. And so a couple of things that I just want to mention about that. Yes, absolutely. That's a public record. You can post it online. You can email it around, whatever you choose to do. So the member the Concom member, I saw him on the screen. If he wants to read that, that's a public document. He's free to read it. I'm sure somebody can email it to him, but you can also post it on the website if you choose to do that. I would recommend strongly that any discussion about that be limited to scheduling right now, and don't talk anymore. The applicant weighed in, and I don't like to be rude, but you shouldn't, we shouldn't have kind of a free for all about comments on this. It's something for the board to discuss in executive session. It's not something that should be discussed substantively in open session here. So I would just limit it to scheduling. And if you need to do the scheduling by, emailing around after the hearing, that's fine as well.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we will move on to future meetings. So my plan is to hold the 40B meetings on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. Our regular ZBA meeting is on the third Wednesday. So if we hold them on the second and the fourth, which would mean our next meeting would be on January 12th with the intention of discussing the traffic circulation, parking, public safety, peer review, and transportation report. Now, Mr. Engler, I don't believe we've received the updated report yet.
You have not, we've done the counts, but we did not submit the report because, as I had indicated, we told our team to stand down until the safe harbor was adjudicated, which it was today. So I told my traffic engineer to finish the report. If the town chooses to appeal and without getting into the specifics, we have no choice but to, put a cease on any work and certainly any funding for peer review until the appeal is completed. And I know the board understands that.
Thank you.
And am I understanding, I thought I had heard you say January 6th.
January
Or is
12th.
that just
January 6th is to get the peer review completed, which would then give us a week to look at it before we meet again.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So are board members good with meeting on the 7th and 4th, second and fourth Wednesdays of the month? So the next meeting would be January 12th. Except for an executive session we'll need to hold prior to that.
Yes.
Yes, James, yes. Catherine, John, yeah. Okay.
Works for me. I have a question, however. Can we scroll back a little bit about the, so we're gonna have a peer review on the data that is incomplete.
Correct.
Is that my understanding?
Right, we need the traffic report before the peer reviewer can begin. The updated traffic.
Traffic report. Okay. So we're actually handcuffing this. So to ask someone to make a commitment to a time frame when they don't know when they're going to get the actual data is going to be a problem, I would think.
Yes, but it may be that somebody says to us, no way can we make.
Okay, no, I'm just throwing that out there.
Can make the date.
Trying to wrap my head around.
We're under severe time constraint.
Understood.
And we have to be moving this forward, or else it's going to get away from us, because I figured it's going to take 2 meetings to do traffic and safety, at least. That takes us in, puts us through the end of January. Then we have to do the environmental, which I'm thinking will be February. And then the site plan and engineering would be March. And then we need to look at the architectural piece too. And we need input from the various town boards. So I'm concerned about the timeline.
Brian, I would say this relative to the traffic study. Keep in mind the previous study was done at 150 units. We now doing the counts on 136. And all the other elements of the study remain pretty much unchanged. So the reissued study is not going to be material different than what was already issued. Yes, it'll be current. Yes, it'll be reflective of the updated counts. But I would not be concerned about the traffic engineer not being able to do a, credible or meaningful analysis based on what was already done. But the town requested updated counts, so we're delivering updated counts.
Well, okay, that all remains to be seen. So I just, again, I want to be able to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples here. And
Sure.
again, when the study was done, there was no school, there was no summer beach traffic. I have some concerns and just want to make sure that we have an accurate look and review as possible.
No, I understand.
To answer your question, Madam Chairman, about setting up the second and fourth
Wednesday.
Wednesdays for
Mhm.
future meetings, which I think
Yes.
is where you began. I would support that. It's good to get this on our schedules, our individual schedules, because it looks like we're going to have these meetings for quite some time. And that way we can hopefully guarantee that we will have a quorum. So I would support that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm also okay with that.
Okay.
Sarah, as am I.
Catherine
Okay,
and John.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will move to continue the public hearing on the 40B application of Jeffrey Engler of SLV School Street LLC, to be known as the Sanctuary at Manchester by the Sea, for a comprehensive permit under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 through 23, to construct a 136-unit apartment complex for which the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency issued a project eligibility decision on September 16, 2021 at School Street, Assessor's Map number 43, lot number 18, filed with the town clerk on September 27, 2021, to be continued to January 12, 2022 at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jim seconds. Take a roll call vote. Ryan,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes,
Catherine,
yes,
Jim,
Yes.
John. Do we lose John?
Yes.
And Sarah says yes.
And James says yes.
Oh, James, sorry. I always forget somebody. So we will continue to January 12th with the expectation that we will have peer review report by January 6th. So the board will meet, people will need to look at that prior to our January 12th meeting. And I will also send you out a list of waivers requested that apply to traffic and parking, and any concerns raised in the eligibility letter issued by the state that apply to this topic. I also will be seeking some input from the planning board. Hopefully all by January 6th. Okay. I now will move on to administrative matters. Sent out minutes.
All set with council, Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pucci.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Happy holidays.
Good night. Same to you. I'll probably see you before then, but happy holidays if I don't. Thank you. Good night.
So we distributed minutes for both the meeting of October 26th and the meeting of November 4th on the 40B application. Did people have a chance to look at those, or do we need to wait and approve those next Wednesday at our regular ZBA meeting?
this is Catherine. I reviewed them.
Yeah, I reviewed them too.
I reviewed them as well.
I reviewed them too.
So do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Yes.
Wait, there's a typo in one of them, I think.
Okay,
On the last page of the October 26, 2021
yes,
minutes, the very last page, page 6, Mr. Engler, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Engler expressed some reservations around deposition 50K. I think it should be depositing.
depositing, yep. Okay, I'll make that change.
That's it. That's my only comment there.
I was a history major. We didn't have to know how to spell.
So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I make a motion.
Okay, a second.
I second.
Brian seconds. Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Jim,
Approved.
Sean,
Approved.
Catherine,
Approve.
Brian,
Approved.
James,
Approved.
John,
Approve.
and Sarah approves. One more administrative matter. I wanted to remind people that we have site visits this Saturday at 9:30 for our regular ZBA business. The first is at 1 Spy Rock Hill and the second is at 8 Kingsway. Okay, and for a meeting next Wednesday, I have 5 members who can attend. Brian and Sean can't. So if you're not going to make it, please let me know because we'll be in trouble.
I won't be at the site visit, Sarah. I have a standing conflict with Saturday.
That's fine.
morning,
That's
so,
okay.
but
Yeah.
it's-
The 8 Kingsway, I don't know if you were at that site visit before. We issued a special permit.
I think
Last
I
year.
think I got lost. And
Yeah.
then couldn't back down the driveway or something.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the one who couldn't back down? That's why she's not going on Saturday.
And the 1 Spy Rock Hill, you can drive to,
Yep, no problem.
drive by and take a look at it. And I will. Hard copies of all those applications are at Town Hall and I will ask Gail to send out electronic versions to you tomorrow morning.
Great.
Okay,
So the hard copies are ready to be picked up.
Gail, am I correct?
I'll have them in folders for you tomorrow. They're not in folders at the moment. Give me until 9:30
Okay,
tomorrow morning.
Fine.
9.
Town hall's open, right?
what?
Town hall is open tomorrow night, right?
Yes,
Okay. So 9:30 tomorrow morning is fine because I won't be until the afternoon.
All
Um,
right.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Sean moves to adjourn. A second?
Second,
Second.
everyone seconds.
Take a roll call vote. James,
Yes, approved.
Sean,
Approved.
Brian,
Approved.
Catherine,
Yes, approve.
Jim,
Approved.
Sarah says yes, and John.
Wow.
Were you sure?
That was written down my list of attendees.
There's still a lot of confidence there.
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone.
Have a good night, guys.